Julianne, thank you for your time and lovely to talk to you. And I hate that we have to revisit this tragedy upon you by talking about it. But how old was Dave when he joined the Navy?
He was 18 years old and he was in for 20 years, all but a couple of months. So he was out when he was 38.
Why do you think he signed up?
Oh, David wanted a career in the forces. He chose Navy because he liked the idea of going to sea, and his father was in the Air Force, so he sort of wanted to follow suit. And he had a great career.
And your boy, Dave, was held up, wasn't he, as a poster boy for the Navy. He got his good looks after his mum, but he was that, wasn't he, a poster boy?
Oh, he absolutely was. My son was a poster boy and they used him in commercials. He was very brave, he had a commendation, and he was successful in his career.
And when did you detect, or he detect these, I just use the word issues, arise? When did you feel there was something going on?
So we first noticed them probably in about 2015 as a family. David says they were there a bit before that. And he was honest about it. He had to point out that he was no longer coping, that he wasn't sleeping. And so from about 2015, we as a family really knew about it.
Did he raise those issues with the Navy, and what was the response?
Okay, he did raise the issues with the Navy and he did get care in the Navy, but however, that was the end of his career, Alan. It was, his career was over from that point. He couldn't deploy anymore and really it was all over for him. Even though he stayed in for a little bit longer, he did end up with a medical discharge.
How did he feel about that, given that he always wanted to be there?
He didn't really know how he felt about it at the time. He, he understood that it was going to happen, that there was nothing he could do about it, and he just, really had to accept it. And he made plans. He did spend the next year, from the time he discharged to the time he passed away, trying to get help, and that came in all forms. He tried to do different things. He tried art classes. He tried everything that was put in front of him. He asked for help. He knew he needed a psychiatrist. He had the choice of a 700-kilometre round trip or a 6-month wait. So,
Graham, you hear these terrible stories. I can't imagine what it must feel like for Julianne to have to talk about this, but I mean, why is government just so transparently hopeless?
Do you know, if you go back, Alan, it doesn't matter how many years, but it's a long time since the Voyager debacle. Do you remember how badly people were treated then?
Yes.
It's never gotten better. It's always as if the client, which is what they should be called, is instead the enemy. The person to be denied, the person to be pushed away, the person to be crushed. It's never changed in all those years. And how many ministers have we had in that time? God knows, 20 or 30. But nothing's changed.
Well, Julianne, talk about change. What happened today? Did you get any satisfaction? Did you get the impression that attitudes were changing, or was it just an opportunity for you to vent your concerns, which you've vented before, but no one seems to listen?
Oh, look, so once again, I felt heard when I was in the meeting today. Are you talking about the summit or the meeting with the Prime Minister? Sorry.
And yes, I've just missed Julianne there. I just missed what you just say that again, Julianne, if you would.
I'm sorry. Were you talking about the meeting with the Prime Minister or the summit today?
No, I was talking about both. Just in terms of what was achieved today, did you think anything was achieved?
Absolutely, I did. So just from meeting with the Prime Minister, it's the first time he's heard our stories as mothers, and certainly we put it out there that we're not looking for anything other than a Royal Commission. He said that he has a few initiatives to go forward with and more improvements to be made, and I think we were adamant in saying to him that those improvements can still be made while calling for a Royal Commission. There's no more chances to get it right. There's no more chances. It's been going on long enough. We've been calling for it for long enough, and it's time to call for a Royal Commission. In terms of the summit, the backing was incredible from from Ben Roberts-Smith, from James Brown, and the Acting Minister for Veteran Affairs for New South Wales actually announced that the New South Wales Parliament actually supports a Royal Commission into veteran suicide. So that was big news for me. You know, that's one step in there, and certainly hearing the mothers. There were 7 mothers there altogether, and just hearing them all have something to say. We're all agreed that a Royal Commission is needed, starting at the very top with what goes wrong in defence.
How do you cope? I mean, people watching you here tonight, Julianne, how do you cope with talking about someone who's just a beautiful young man and he's gone too soon, and yet here you are virtually pleading with government to make sure that other mothers aren't faced in the situation that you're now faced with?
I don't mean to be, but I'm just going to say it. I'm his mother, and I'll fight for him, and I won't stop fighting for him. That's what mothers do. You can't win against a mother that is fighting for her child, and this has to happen. I won't stop until it does.
You mentioned earlier today, I know, comments by the Veterans Affairs Minister, something about whispering. What was all that about?
So, OK, to Queensland RSL, he made the comment that we need to shout the positives and whisper the negatives. And shouting the positives, really, some of them aren't worth shouting about, although I think they're great, like the new discounts for veterans. It really isn't to shout about when you can get 5 cents off at Caltex and 8 cents off at Woolworths if you shop at Woolworths for a litre of fuel. It's not worth shouting about. And as for whispering the negatives, I will shout the name of my son, and I expect other mothers to shout the names of their sons and daughters, children to shout the names of their parents. We'll shout them because they deserve to be remembered.
Those are powerful words.
Oh, all the words are powerful. All the words are powerful, Alan, because they actually happened. You know, these aren't veterans. These are Australia's bravest, and they have names. All of them have names, and all of them have families, and all of the families are broken. The fallout from losing each person is just incredible. It's another war zone.
Wow.
Yeah. Graham, do you think, I mean, I hate to be, I'm not a cynical person, but do you think these people come along, ministers and governments, to talk to representatives, and in many ways it's designed, I think, often to keep them at arm's length, placate them, hope that they won't make a lot of noise, hope they'll go away feeling quite satisfied, but tomorrow nothing will have happened, and next week nothing will have happened, and next month nothing will have happened, and there'll be more of these veterans taking their lives, and you'll think, well, what did we meet at this summit for? Graham, you've been in government. I mean, government is very slow to respond.
Yeah, there's no excuses here. People say, oh, you know, you can't expect the minister to do it. Why not? Yes, the department will be reluctant, because in the case of the department, what you're doing is saying they've been doing something wrongly. And departments and bureaucrats never want to admit they've stuffed it up. But a minister's job is to get there, kick bums and make things move, make things change, bring things about that are obviously for the good of your clients. And ministers can. You know, now it's easy, very easy, to just let the bureaucracy do it all, because then if something goes wrong, you can say, oh, it was him, wasn't me. But the reality is it's not about whether it's him. It's really about whether you as a minister have the courage, if you can use the old crudity, you've just got the balls to say, righto, this is what's going to happen, and I will not rest until it's done. Now, some ministers can do it, but not many.
No, that's right. You're 100% correct. They don't have any power of persuasion at the cabinet table, and they're right down the bottom of the food chain. No one even knows who the minister is, and they don't get heard. Someone shouts them down, they'll talk about money. If I might just say, Julianne, before we go, to come just back to your boy, he wanted to see a psychologist. And as you said to us, psychiatrist, as you said to us before, he knew he had a problem, he wanted help, and he has to wait.
Yes.
Now, he basically gave up. The wait was too much, wasn't it?
Look, absolutely, everything was wrong for him. I can't tell you his thoughts at the very end. But when you talk about people not wanting to take blame, and we don't want to blame this person and that person, we already have the outcome. There's over 500 dead. So somebody or some establishment or some institution has to be accountable for that. We can't just let 500 go and not investigate that. I'm certainly not walking away from it. There's a lot of other parents and children and brothers and sisters that are not walking away from it. And I'm not going to move on. We can't just move on and say, look, let's try and get it right. There are no more chances. No more chances. It's a Royal Commission, and it's a Royal Commission now.
Well, that's the test, isn't it? There we are, Julianne Finney, and she says, and we just remember that all of you are watching, and put it in your diary, the date today, November 6, 2019, Julianne Finney says it's a Royal Commission and a Royal Commission now. So I'll ask Graham the final question here. So, Graham, what is wrong? I mean, Turnbull called a Royal Commission after watching a show on the ABC. What's wrong with the government calling a Royal Commission tomorrow? That's what Julianne says. That's all it can be, nothing else. There's no halfway house. Why can't that be done, Graham?
There's no reason why it can't be done, and it should be done. I reckon if you asked Australians, the overwhelming majority would say, yes, let's do it now. But it requires governments to take courageous decisions. You know what Humphrey said about courage? And a lot of them just can't bring themselves to do it. But I think this time there might be a change. I think there's so much momentum to this. You can't stop that momentum. I think this will happen, and I think it will happen soon, because I think Scott Morrison is getting the message.
Good on you. Well, one final thing I'd say to you, Julianne. Sorry, no, I'll let you have the final say, but Julianne, the one great thing about what you just said then, it's on tape, Julianne, and we're able to roll the tape at any time in the future and play it back to those people who still find an inability to do what you are seeking. But you deserve the final say. Julianne.
Can I just say, you said that Australians want this. You know what? I've got 253,000 signatures on a petition. Australians do want this. To all serving members and ex-serving members, thank you for your service. You have put your life on the line for us. You signed up to put your life on the line for us. Thank you so much. We will support you.
Isn't that wonderful? Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. There she is, Julianne Finney. Well, we can draw our own conclusions, but I'll tell you what, we don't go away, and we'll continue to make those demands on behalf of Julianne and all the mothers of veterans, alive and not alive. Wonderful stuff. Julianne Finney.